Welcome to Urban Archaeology, Part 101. I moved to Saginaw, Michigan from Tawas, which is way up north. When I lived in Tawas and Oscoda, I made literally thousands of finds of artifacts, fossils, and relics. Tawas and Oscoda are for the most part a rural area, and there are unlimited areas where one can hunt and build a fascinating personal collection because much of the land, particularly along rivers and streams, has not been excavated, has not been built upon, and anywhere along rivers and streams in Michigan is a good place to hunt, particularly for Indian artifacts. Circumstances back about 6 years ago, though, made it necessary for my son David and I to move to Saginaw, which in a great part is an urban area. Urban, at least where I am, refers to towns and or cities. And by the way, by their very nature, it would seem that the chance of finding fossils, artifacts, and relics are much less in an urban area. Such is not always the case, and I have had some good opportunities and have made truly some of the most impressive finds of my 30-plus years of digging for artifacts, fossils, and relics since I moved to Saginaw. When we first moved to Saginaw, we lived in a very shabby old house. I was given permission to plant a garden in the backyard, but it never got planted because straight away I began finding relics. In retrospect, they dated as far back as Native American Indians and all the way up to the 1950s. I remember a number of beautiful finds there. One was an extremely large pumpkin seed flask, much larger than any I'd ever seen before. And at almost 4 feet under the ground, I remember I hit a layer of clay. And in that clay, I found a yellow jasper stone knife or scraper. Being in that clay, it had to be in here in Michigan in very, very early times. I think pre-woodland times probably. But that was such an impressive and beautiful find. But at any rate, as I said, I found things as far back as Native American and as recently as all the way up to the 1950s. I found literally hundreds of pieces in my backyard. I won't describe all that I found, but if you live in an urban area, you may want to check out your own backyard because it might be a good place to start your treasure hunting. Let's see, where else is there in the city to look for, in a city setting, to look for artifacts? Well, here in Saginaw, there are a lot of abandoned homes, and they're being torn down. I don't recommend going into an abandoned house, but once they're torn down, most people seem to not care if you look on the surface of the ground. Teardowns are where I have made some of my most interesting finds. For example, I have found Native American artifacts that would have otherwise likely would never have been found or seen anybody place an interest in them because of where they were. It wasn't like the professional was just going to walk by and see them. However, as an example, though, I have found Native American artifacts that would have, as I said, otherwise never been found. Plus, thanks to YouTube, I've been able to share these finds with others. Also on these teardown sites, I've found some exceptional pre-1900 bottles, tools from the logging era. In Saginaw, the logging was a booming business. At one time, Saginaw was the lumbering capital of the world. But from the logging industry, I found blacksmith-made axes, horseshoes, and so much more. Indian artifacts dating from about 500 years ago in the late woodland period to over 3,000 years ago in the late archaic period. So these are things that you can find maybe in your own backyard. I was very fortunate. There was a lot there. And when I moved, not everything had been dug out. When I get cabin fever in the wintertime, I'd go into the house, into the crawl space under the house, and dig for relics down there, and found them. So, anyways, the third main place to, or the second main place to make discoveries right out in the open should be fairly obvious. Look through landscaping rocks, which are employed by many businesses to make their exterior look attractive. These are ideal places to find fossils. Don't just take stones, ask first. I've not had anyone turn me down. And don't take out buckets of stone, because they won't like that, I'm sure. Just a few, here and there, interesting pieces that you will find. I made one of my most interesting fossil specimens find of such a specimen in the parking lot of a local bank. Let me ask you, do you know what a sea scorpion is? It is an extinct marine creature whose length could be as much as 8 feet. The sea scorpion, of course, had to grow up physically as we do. They started out small. I found a fossil specimen of an immature sea scorpion measuring only about 2 inches in length. A really awesome piece that I display in my home. At the end of this video, I'll tell you a little bit about how I display my finds. Just yesterday, at the same bank, I found the calyx of a crinoid. Types of crinoids still live in the oceans, but many types have become extinct and fossilized. The calyx, which I found, is at the top of a long stalk, or tube, stalk, stem. Okay, and it's the head off from which tendrils would have extended out. Now, I went back over there today just for a short walk, and I found this is a great example of what you can find in these kind of places. I found a fossil in Blackstone that really had me perplexed until I got home, and I sat here and looked and looked and looked at it, and finally figured out that it was a double fossil of the calyx of 2 crinoids, and they're fossilized together. The best way to take these apart so that I can see both specimens better is to soak them in water overnight and then freeze them for a day. This freezing and thawing is supposed to crack the fossil open, and there's already a hairline fissure in this fossil, so it may work more quickly than one would usually expect. But I am preparing a video of that, and that'll be up later after I get the 2 pieces separated. But anyways, whereas I have found hundreds of fossil stems, crinoid stems, this is only the second and now third and fourth that I've happened across. The stem pieces are so abundant in some places that I'm told the Native American Indian tribes used them as beads. I have found at least one trilobite, the butt of a trilobite, and a full trilobite, so that's actually 2, 1.5. Trace fossils, which in this case are track marks of some small sea creature making its way across an ancient sea floor. And I've also found some beautiful specimens of solitary coral fossils, as well as many other types of coral. Close to me is the bank I have been telling you about. Also close to where I live is a McDonald's and a Rally's. Neither of these care if I collect a few specimens from their landscaping. Rally's is really easy because their outside tables, at least, here are right next to their landscaping stones, so you can sit there and have a meal or a snack while you're hunting for fossils. So you have gone out and made some really nice fossil finds. How do you display them? My method will work whether you live in a small apartment or a large house. While I'm out and about, I'm always on the lookout for picture frames. You can find many of them that people have thrown out, and you can also find them very cheaply at yard sales and estate sales, and as I said, they are usually quite inexpensive. With these frames, I build shadow box displays to show off my finds, and usually I'll get a computer printout of what the specimen would look like when it was alive, and I also try to put a short write-up in the shadow box which gives details about the specimen. In doing this, most people who visit my apartment comment that it looks more like walking into a museum, and this is exactly the effect that I'm going for. If you decide to try your hand at urban artifact hunting, let me know what you find. I would be very interested in hearing about your urban adventures, and I look forward to hearing from you. Hey, thanks for stopping by, and have a great day. God bless.